I found that with anything, that if you push hard enough in one direction, you'll get a significant pushback, just because the things that you're saying are usually not going to be all-inclusive. There is going to be something that is left out of your worldview. And so when you shove in a particular direction, the thing that you've left out ends up drawing strength in the other direction because you are specifically leaving it out of what you're trying to achieve. Which is, I think, one of the reasons why younger people are probably less tolerant than expected. So there's been a survey that USA Today are reporting on here that they find alarming, which I'm not surprised with at all. Young people are growing less tolerant of LGBTQ individuals, a jarring term for a generation traditionally considered embracing and open, a survey released Monday shows. The number of Americans 18 to 34 who are comfortable interacting with LGBTQ people slipped from 53% in 2017 to 45% in 2018, the only age group to show a decline, according to the annual Accelerating Acceptance Report, and that's down from 63% in 2016. That's very interesting, isn't it? The more SJWE things get, the less accepting of gay people become. I wonder if that's anything to do with the rampant degeneracy of pride parades. I really have to question, how much awful stuff in these pride parades, like really unwholesome stuff, do we have to see before people start thinking, you know what, this isn't actually the future I was looking for? And it turns out that we may have reached that point. Driving the dilution of acceptance are young women. Now this is very interesting, isn't it? Whose overall comfort levels plunged from 64% in 2017 to 52% in 2018. Very interesting. It's almost like... No, I'm not even going to go there. I can't prove it, but it sounds like it might be true, and I'm not going to say it. Anyway, we count on the narrative that young people are most progressive and tolerant. You can guess in the comments what I was thinking. These numbers, you'll never get it either. That's the funny thing. These numbers are very alarming and signal a looming social crisis in discrimination. All right, yeah. A looming social crisis in discrimination. Yeah. I'm sure that the future is looking terrible for gay people. That's what you're saying. Even though, every fucking company I can think of currently has the pride flag as their logo. There are, city halls all across the country putting up pride flags. It's just everyone. Police cars. It's everywhere at the moment. It's like, yeah, okay, great. Everyone's in favor of gay rights, dude. I agree. Okay. What conversation do we need to have now? Nothing of any particular note, but you're going on anyway because it's not now about the cause. The cause has been successful, wildly successful. Everyone agrees. Now it's about the institution of it, isn't it? It's about the LGBTQ as an institution of its own, regardless of the constituent parts of that. Anyway, among the findings, 36% of young people said they were uncomfortable learning a family member was LGBTQ, compared with 29% in 2017. I wonder if that's because they're like, shit, he's going to be a massive SJW. He's going to say, oh, my oppression, I don't care. Don't care about your oppression, you're not oppressed, we're all fine. To that degree. 34% were uncomfortable learning their doctor was gay or LGBTQ, compared to 27% earlier. 39% were uncomfortable learning their child had a school lesson on LGBTQ history, versus 30% in 2017. Again, why do you differentiate? What if gay people are part of our civilization, and they are, why would you have LGBTQ history? Why would you not, have Alan Turing, a gay man who was persecuted, even though he helped Britain defeat the Nazis? Why would you would just have that as part of what happened when you were explaining that person's life, or Oscar Wilde or something like that? You don't need separate history because it is part of our history. I don't know why that has to be said, frankly. But the negative shift for the young is surprising, said Sarah Kate Ellis, GLAAD president and CEO. When GLAAD delved into the numbers, the group found that the younger generation was coming in contact with more LGBTQ people, particularly individuals who are non-binary or don't simply identify as lesbian or gay. That's really interesting, isn't it? The more experience they have coming into contact with these crazy LGBTQ SJW not fruitcakes, the more they're like, you know what? I just don't think so. I'm actually finding myself less tolerant of whatever it is they're suggesting at this point, which is it's not a good thing. But I tell you what, it's all down to the way that they're acting. You know, I swear to God. But this newness they are experiencing could be leading to this erosion. No, it's the constant experience of being told they're a bad person because they're a cis straight person. All right, that's what it is. It's a newness that takes time for people to understand. Our job is to educate about non-conformity. No, they're sick of hearing it. They're sick of hearing. All they had to do is be tolerant, and now they're tolerant. And then you're like, okay, but that's not enough. We need acceptance. Oh, well, hang on a second. If we're now talking about, like, naked gay dudes dry humping down the street in a pride parade, I don't see why I should have to accept that. You know, why don't you turn out in a suit, is all I'm saying. If you want to have a pride parade, great. Why not people in suits and ties, or just t-shirts and jeans, walking down the street, waving the pride flag? I'd probably join. I'd be like, yeah, good for you guys. You know, but when it's guys in thongs with ball gags on leashes, and people like wearing dildo outfits and things like this, man, there's something about it that just says, gone too far. You know, you've lost me. You've lost me on this. I think this is going too far. I'm becoming less tolerant of that. And this is important because the survey results come during Pride 2019 and on the eve of the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, which sparked the LGBTQ rights movement. Yeah. 50 years ago. So 11 years before I was born. Okay. And now it's absolutely everywhere. A casual observer from the 50s would probably say something like, the gays have taken over. And they are marching down the street in a degenerate fashion. Why are you doing this? And I would have to say, you know what? I don't know. I actually don't know why we're doing this. I don't see the need for this at all. But look at this. They also landed a dark hour politically and culturally for the LGBTQ community. Are you fucking mental? There are cop cars painting the flag. The cops painting the pride flag on their faces, waving the pride. What the fuck are you talking about? A dark hour politically? You mean we had almost total domination, and we've been stopped short at total domination? We've only got 90% rather than 100%. This is a dark hour politically and culturally for our community. It's insane. Everything, like, you couldn't ask for a more permissive society at this point. Well, I mean, I suppose you guys could, because there's inflammatory rhetoric. Oh no, dozens of policy setbacks. Go on, then name a dozen. Such as a ban on transgender people in the military and religious exemption laws that can lead to discrimination. Wow. Okay, if you're transgender, you can't join the army. All right, terrible oppression. Even though no one's actually got the right to join the army, it's actually really rigorous, isn't it? You need to be a certain level of fitness. You seem to have a certain level of health, a certain amount of able-bodiedness. If you have to take drugs and keep a neo-vagina open by shoving things in there like 3 times a day, then perhaps going on lengthy field operations in a war zone is not the place you want to be anyway. Surely you've got better things to do. But anyway, could be female to male, obviously. What am I saying? But yeah, and religious exemption laws that can lead to discrimination. Well, give me examples. And even then, okay, let's... Like, there are going to be spaces in society that don't accept, like, this kind of ideology, and they are going to be religious spaces, because the Abrahamic religions are very anti-gay. What can we do except for abolish the Abrahamic religions? And all I'm saying is I'm down for it, but I just don't think it's feasible. Both are a likely force behind the Young's pushback on tolerance, they said. Well, I'm sure they are. I'm sure that's the case. It's support for the transgender ban in the military and religious exemption laws that are causing young people to be less tolerant of LGBT people. Nothing to do with the activists. Nothing to do with how far they're going. It's all the hate speech they're bombarded with on social media, from viral videos to mean tweets. Our toxic culture is enveloping young people. It instills fear and alienation. Well, hang on. Are you... I thought the problem... What? They're the ones sending it, probably, you dipshits. Like... They're the ones saying it, 18 to 35-year-olds or whatever it is. They're undoubtedly the ones sending it. And you're acting as if they are the gay people who are being bombarded with it. There's been an increase in violence and discrimination against... So there's been an increase in violence against gay people in the United States, which there has, and this mirrors the trajectory of the acceptance survey. The report, first commissioned in 2014, reflected positive momentum from historic gains for the LGBT rights, such as same-sex marriage, blah, 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 which is very reasonable. That's why. Why can't two people of legal consenting age marry one another? Oh, because one of them has this and the other has the same. That's not a good reason, okay? God says he doesn't like it is not a good enough reason. But that shifted in 2017 with the fallout from the presidential election. Look, maybe it's just because the radical left and the people who push this agenda are everywhere and are just insufferable. Have you just considered that? Like, they're just really annoying. And the thing is, they're going way too far. Like, you do not have a lifestyle that is the equivalent of every other lifestyle. It is something different. It is something that we will tolerate, obviously, but it's not something that fits into most other people's lives. Like, there is a reason that there are severe problems in the LGBTQ community based on their behavior. A lot of it does hurt them. And you can say, well, that's homophobic or transphobic or whatever. And I'll say, okay, but the numbers are as the numbers are. You know, I didn't make it this way. It just is. And all of the pushing that you're doing to try and eradicate these problems is creating intolerance towards what you're doing, because frankly, your methods are awful and your goal seems to be abominable. The abolition of like any barrier at all is a really silly goal. And the normalization of like extreme sexualization in public is really quite intolerable to a lot of people. And honestly, I'm not surprised that there has been a backlash to it.